All right, so let's get started. I don't see any stragglers coming in. If they do come in, you'll probably notice me get a little bit distracted and then admit people. So this is webinars, Crowdfunding Secrets, how to get investors to your crowdfunding offer, even if nobody's heard of you. Because it's usually the case if you've got a great product, you put it on a platform, CF or 506 or Reg A, you know, there's going to be a point where you're taking off, you got a little momentum, it could get stalled, and you've got to restart it because you're going to run out of friends, family, and your list. So here's what we're going to cover today. Who's this for? Who we are, why you're crowdfunding, are investors waiting for me when you launch this campaign, the 3 most important crowdfunding secrets, what's the cost of capital in crowdfunding. This is an important one because a lot of people have expectations that it's just going to come at you. I got a great product, a great service, and people are going to start throwing at me as soon as I crowdfund. Not actually the case. All right. How much will it cost to raise 5 million? I'm going to give you an example on this, on the numbers it's going to take, how we help, and who this works for ideally. What type of company does that look like? So let's get in it. Apologize. All right. So who's this for? You're a company or a service provider, and you're referring customers or clients to this. You can't find, you're raising capital and you can't find any big check writers in this crazy environment. And I don't think there's anybody on the phone can doubt me on this environment. They probably never see it. I'm 58, 59 years old, and I can't believe we've been shut down going on 4 months, I think. You're just starting exploring methods to raise capital for yourself or your client. You have a current campaign, let's say it's CF, a larger one, or a 506 or Reg A, and it's stalled. They go through cycles. You run out of names, like I said, or you've done one in the past. A lot of companies that are succeeding today is because they tried one back in 2016 and it failed. You have a great idea, traction, and you need to start raising capital fast to take advantage of the momentum you have. You want to leverage your community. Let's say you're a company, a mature company right now. You've already got revenue. You've got thousands of customers, and you want to be able to leverage that. You just don't want to go, I'm going to go to a VC and ask for $5 million, and they're going to take X amount of the company. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to leverage your community because you have passionate fans. You want more control over the terms, meaning the terms of your deal, the valuation, and timing. So who we are. I'm John Stoddard on the phone. I started a company called Turbo Squid. It's a marketplace software company. They sell 3D digital assets to animators. It's still #1 in its niche. I bought a failing e-commerce company selling hearing aids. I rebuilt it, installed systems, put automated systems in place, and sold it to a private investor. I've helped raise over $22 million for my own projects and more for others. I'm author of Pitch Deck Secrets, the underground playbook for attracting investors to your deal. Also, I have Mike Brett on the phone. Mike is CEO of Small Cap Equity Advisors, a fee-based consulting firm. He's a Juris Doctorate for over 30 years in California. He's been doing investor relations for over 25 years. He's helped raise over $80 million for his clients. And he's also the author of 2 books, Raising Capital for Your Business and Asset Protection Plan. And at this moment, I'm going to bring on Michael. Just say hi and introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, John. This is Mike Brett. And I've been in business, like John said, for over 25 years, advising and consulting with private companies and public companies on a variety of transactional business matters, raising capital, private placements, taking companies public. So I'm here for the whole event today, and at the end, we'll take your questions. Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks, Mike, for joining us. So here's why you're going to crowdfund. Aside from raising capital, that's the main goal, right? I want to raise capital. You've got a business, let's say a drone company, and you need $7 million to implement and execute your goals. But with crowdfunding, it's a little different. There's some special benefits. You're in control of timing, meaning you're starting, you can stop starting, at any time. That's your choice. You're in control of the actions, the effort you put in. You're in control of the terms and valuation. Now, the valuation I got to talk about just a little tiny bit, because you've still got to be on the planet. You can't say, I've got this company with a great idea, you have no customers, no revenue, and it's worth $100 million. You still have to be on planet Earth for the valuation. Number two, you are raising capital and acquiring customers. These are customer acquisition skills. Most important to a business, being able to acquire customers. If you can acquire investors, you can acquire customers. And simultaneously, you're also increasing your brand awareness about this. Because when you're out there talking about your company, you're talking about your brand and mission in social media, to the media, you are increasing your brand awareness. As opposed to, let's say, I'm going to go raise money with a VC and basically just reach out to a number of VCs over a 1-year period and try to raise $10 million. And nothing happens until I get that $10 million. Your campaign immediately adds capital to your balance sheet. Now, what I'm saying is, if you're doing a CF, that's probably about 30 days. With a 506 Reg D, if you get all your paperwork, your PPM done, and you're ready to go, that could happen in 15 days and you're raising capital. Let's say you're building up a lot of momentum talking about your product and services on social media and say, stay tuned. Okay, and then when that day hits, you're cleared to raise, boom, you could put it in your balance sheet and you can apply it to more marketing activities. All right, so let me just give you a recent case study. One of our clients is Neurotez. Neurotez is on net capital, and we raised $175,000 for them. That's been updated. But what we did for these guys, it's a pharmaceutical company for Alzheimer's. It's a leptin therapy to help. To go through clinical trials, we have to, that is a $10 million deal. $10 million. So we helped him raise on net capital to fund a broker-dealer syndication work. So he can get in front of institutional investors can then write a check for $5 or $10 million. So if I go on crowdfunding, a site like WeFunder, Start Engine, or Net Capital, are investors waiting for me? The truth is, will they show up if you build it? It's like the field of dreams. The reality is, they just won't come unless people know you exist and you give them a compelling reason to find you. They're just not coming. This is like the Kevin Costner field of dreams. So here's the 3 most important secrets in crowdfunding. You've got to be able to identify who my dream crowdfunding investor is. Number 2, where are they hiding? And number 3, how do I attract investors to my offer? How are you going to do it? So secret number 1, who's my dream investor? This is really critical because you might as well forget about spending money anywhere else. I mean, if you're a brand new company, you don't have any customers, or you only have 100 and it's not taken off, this is more for that. If you've got 1,000 customers already, you should know who this is because you know who your dream customer is. But you've got to be able to get clear on who your dream investor is. It's critical to crowdfunding success. And you've got to be able to know them better than they know themselves. Once you know them, it's a lot easier to find them. With any company, you have your customer and you have your investor. A customer is usually, when you're answering the question, what's the pain to pleasure solution? With the investor, it's how much money am I going to make? So with crowdfunding, there's a little bit of convergence of the two. It's people that are passionate, fans, and user base at the same time. And your job is to be able to tap in to that passionate fans. And once you find out who that customer is and that investor is, and there's convergence of the two, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect the first time. You're testing that audience with an ads, like what motivates them. Once you find out that answer, who this is, it's going to be a lot easier to find where they are. Could they be on Instagram? Could be they on Facebook? Could they be on GitHub or companies like this, or are they going to be on LinkedIn? So here's a case study. I just want to mention where this is the company that I built, that Century Hearing Aids. I found out my dream investor was actually my supplier, because we had a vested interest to succeed. We just kind of worked out a deal where I raised money from them. I said, look, you want me to sell more of your hearing aids? I needed help with some marketing costs. They were in agreement with that. So we raised about $500K for them. Finding out what motivates them, why they're doing it, and then you're going to be able to find them who they are. Secret number 2, where are they hiding? Well, there's 3. There's traffic you own, traffic you pay for, and traffic you earn. And I'm going to talk about each one of those. Traffic you own. So if you're a brand new company and don't have any customers, what's your list? I mean, do you have a list of 100 or 1,000 or 1 million? If you don't, you're going to have to go immediately to traffic you pay for, traffic you earn. This is what I talked about earlier is you've already got it. Let's say you've already got an established company. You're doing a 506C Reg D, and you've already got 5,000 customers. This is great. That's where you start leveraging them. Find out where they hang out or congregate, that profile or that avatar, and you can find out where the rest of them hang out also. Because that 5,000, let's say you do, they like some sort of a magazine or podcast or something. You can find all of that out today with really powerful social media tools. Number 2, traffic you pay for. So if you don't have any customers, or you've already maximized or leveraged your customer list as much as possible, you're probably going to have to go out and pay for traffic. That means putting ads up in front of that dream customer and then driving them to your offer. And I want to just give you a pay-per-click example what this looks like. This is a Facebook campaign, but we had to spend $34,000 to get a $100,000 return on this. I wouldn't do it alone. Just telling you that right now. Just don't do a advertising campaign alone. So traffic you earn. Traffic you earn is likes, shares, followers, influencers, TV, radio, podcast. These are people you ask for to talk about you. And the benefit to this is they need a story as much as you need them. And here's the challenge of this. Relationships take time. We also have a smaller customer that has a crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine. And I wanted to get his product reviewed by somebody at Popular Mechanics. So the time length it took for me to reach out to this guy on Popular Mechanics, to send a connection to him. He's approves the connection. He gets my notice, talks about it, was almost 2.5 months. Relationships with earned media take time. So the converged media, that's traffic you own, traffic you pay for, and traffic you earn. And this is why you want to do all 3 of these. It's like a 3-leg stool. You take one leg out, it's not going to work. Like, you take one leg out, like traffic you own or traffic you pay for, and it's traffic you pay for is going to be very, very expensive. Take traffic you pay for out and traffic you own out. I tell you, traffic you earn is going to take a long time. So let's take a look at a case study here. I worked on a company called Ionic Brands. It's actually a cannabis company a couple of years ago, and we worked on it and just a campaign to get the PR out. The how-to, a number of videos we did with these guys. I did a campaign about how to create a company that survives a 1999 recession. It was like kind of investor relations. He's telling a story. And previous one, I did a how to raise about $8 million through a pre-IPO with him. That worked real well. We did a pre-IPO. We did an acquisition from that. That's an example of how to use traffic you own. Secret number 3, how do I attract investors to my offer? Let's say you've already identified who your dream customer or dream investor is. and you know where to get to them. So how do I attract them to this offer? This is, ladies and gentlemen, it is not an exact science. This requires testing. It's taking this guy over to this side and being happy. The first thing you got to do with any ad you do is every post, picture, video is used to get the investor to engage with your content so that you can tell a story and make an offer. But this is it. I mean, this is posting on LinkedIn, this is posting on Facebook or Instagram or wherever they congregate. And then you've got a very short period of time. Once you get them over to your site to make a connection, the story creates desire. It's the epiphany bridge. And then you can make an offer. This offer needs to be irresistible value. It's got the story. When you tell a story, it appeals to their, hey, I love what they're doing. I want to be part of it. It's got to be irresistible value to get them to go to your invest now button. Every piece of marketing you have, an ad, story you earn, story you pay for, all of it has to have a hook story offer. Let me tell you a case story. And it's why you're here right now, because I do a number of posts on LinkedIn about how to do crowdfunding, what we've learned. I move you from valuable content to a webinar to an actual online webinar giving you more information about this. Here's some more content ideas, because people run out of these and they just like, I don't know what to post. What you don't want to do is like, I post every day about how my day is going. This is not Facebook. This is not Instagram. This is providing valuable information every day about companies. And one of the most valuable but people love is how I did it. Infographics. These are evergreen types of content. Losing big deals, how you got there. People love that story, how you overcame a bunch of objections or challenges and succeeded. So this is where I'm going to bring in Mike. Mike was the lead on this project, Apex Farms. It was 427% oversubscribed on MicroVentures. Mike, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, this was a vertical farming client that came to me a while ago, and they wanted to do a crowdfunding on MicroVentures. They only wanted to raise about $50,000 to get some prototypes going of their vertical farming system. And we ended up raising $220,000 in 60 days. And the reason that's important is if you're doing an equity crowdfund offering, you need to really price it and raise your capital within a 60-day period, max 90 days. Otherwise, it gets stale, your offer gets stale, and people start being suspicious that something is wrong if you can't get your deal funded in a shorter period of time. So that's what we did for Apex Farm, and it was a very successful offering.
Yeah, and it was, Mike's really good at, remember what I talk about, as soon as you know who your dream investor is, and it's a lot easier to figure out where they hang out, Mike knew exactly where people in the ag industry would want to back a company to succeed. So
in this case, I went to urban people that lived in an urban area in the cities, did rooftop farming, restaurants that wanted to grow their own herbs, but they didn't have acreage, but they had a rooftop. And this system fit perfect. So I went rooftop farming. I went different people that were grow facilities for herbs and vegetables, and we marketed directly to them. And just like John was saying, we found the investors and went directly to them.
Yeah. Once you determine who that dream investor is, it's going to be a lot easier to find them. All right. So what is the cost of capital in crowdfunding? These are some numbers working with the guy that's got some campaigns on republic.co. And this is about, I think about 20 companies, 330. And the average campaign CF cost to raise that money was $46K. That's 13%. So that's kind of just for a CF, where it's supposed to be free. That is $46,000 of marketing spend and time to raise $330K. In a Reg A, that's a Reg A plus, from 300K to 2 million, that's the average range, was all 10 to 30%. These are, Reg A is for more mature, established companies, usually have over 2 million in revenue, great product, already raised in the past, great management team, great story, everything working together, but it costs money to raise money in crowdfunding. I don't want anybody walking away with this webinar thinking that if I put my company up on a crowdfunding site, they're going to throw money at me and I'm not going to spend any money. That's never the case. So let's go an example, numbers to raise $5 million. So you got to just a little bit of math. One person has to write a check for 5 million, two people write a check for 2.5, 200 write a check for 2,500, 5,000 people write a check for 1,000. So look at this. How do I get 5,000 people to write a check for 1,000? If you're a brand new company, don't have any customer list, so you know after that I have to go to traffic I pay for or traffic I earn. And now I've got to get 5,000 people to write a check for 1,000. So this is another case of Mike. Mike was the lead on this. He helped them raise $15 million.
Yeah, this was a case, really, to John's point, 5 years, they've been, Tequila Comisario has been a client of mine for almost over 6 years. 5 years ago, they had zero. They had nothing but an idea, and we took that, we established the brand, we entered different competitions across the country, and we won all types of awards, double gold for the different tequila blends that we had, establishing the market, establishing the valuation, establishing vendors, attracting investors. And to this day, the company has raised over $20 million. They have distribution in 30 states. We landed a contract with MGM Grand Casinos in Las Vegas that has 16 casinos, bars, restaurants. Cisco Foods, which is a $60 billion company, is now a distributor of our products, the Tequila Comisario product. So again, it all goes back. We weren't just going out and trying to get investors. We were trying to establish the brand, establish sales, establish marketing, and then the dollars came because, as John and I always say, investors are not sitting out there with their checkbook in hand, ready to write you a check if they never heard of you. And that would have been the case with all of our clients. If we wouldn't have done the marketing, the advertising, promotion to get the word out there that the company existed, there would be no funding.
Yeah, well, like I go back to the three biggest benefits is you're immediately building your brand. You're telling your story. It's not like you're waiting to say, okay, I'm going to start a raising capital campaign. Start from zero, and it's going to take 12 months to raise $5 million from a private equity group or a family office or a VC, and nothing happens. Like minimal stuff happens between here and there. No, crowdfunding starts as soon as you bring it and it goes on your balance sheet. So let's take a look at this. So these are digital marketing averages. They could be high, they could be low. I'd say, there's it just depends on how good you are at your story, your timing, trends. So you need 5,000 people to write a check for 1,000 at a 0.25 conversion ratio. That means you need to get your offer in front of 2 million people. Now, if you think, oh my God, if I don't have a great offer and a stupid ad, there's no call to action, there's no hook, there's nothing happen, you're going to have to spend a ton of money to do that. Especially if you just did traffic you pay for. 0.5% conversion ratio, that's 1 million people. 1% conversion ratio, 500. 2% conversion ratio, you need to get your offer in front of 250,000 people. I can't emphasize this enough, how important it is to make sure I have identified your dream investor and why they want to invest. That's their convergence of the two. That's like you're taking somebody from pain to pleasure to helping them make money, being part of something bigger. Because you don't want to be at the 0.25. You want to be down 2% or better. You want to be able to get in front of people where they congregate You know they congregate there, not just throwing blank ads at Facebook. So here's another case study. It's Lucas Energy. Mike was the lead on this one, and they've raised over $20 million. Mike, you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure, absolutely. Lucas was a small oil and gas company. They didn't do any wildcat drilling. They just went into old wells, unplugged them, and pumped the oil. They were a small cap company that took public on the OTC market, eventually got it uplisted to the NASDAQ. But again, we traveled for 2 years. We traveled about 15 days out of every month and did road shows, face-to-face meetings with broker-dealers, investment banks, getting the word out about the company, the daily production they were doing, and how they were going to increase production. We told the story. The president of the company at the time was an oil man with 40 years experience and a personal friend of mine. And he could get into a room with analysts and oil experts from investment banks and brokers, institutional retail investors, and he knew how to establish the trust element because he knew the oil and gas business. So it all goes down to when we started, this was a 40-cent stock. They only had 500 shareholders. By the time we finished in 18 months, we had brought in 8,000 new shareholders and raised $20 million from 5 different investment banks. Because we got the stock from 40 cents to over $5. We brought in pension funds and a lot of retail support for the stock. So we had to tell the story. They couldn't do anything until we got out in front of people, started marketing on TV, interviews on TV, face-to-face meetings. So we had to tell the story of why the company was important and why an investor would want to invest and how they were going to get a return on their money.
Yeah, so that's a good point when you bring up, a lot of people want to raise capital on a CF, and sometimes they don't know how to price per minimum share. And I know of a company that's very successful at a minimum price of $2,500, which is great. You never want to get it down to where you're at $2 or anything like that because your energies are just wasted. You could do a ton of posts, you could do a ton of information, interviews, and people will invest $20. That's just a waste of time. That's point number one. Point number two is if you're trying to raise $5 million and up, it's going to take some big check writing individuals. And sometimes you're going to need broker dealer support or institutional investors. Again, here's some of the benefits. Not only you raising money, you're in control, terms, valuation, timing, and effort. You're raising capital and acquiring customers. This is your customer acquisition skills. One of the most important skills in a business is the ability to acquire customers. And you're increasing your brand awareness. It starts on day one. If you put a post about yourself and why you built the product in a video on LinkedIn and everywhere else, you are building your brand. Number 3, your campaign immediately adds capital to your balance sheet, which can fund more activities. Like I said with the neurotest, we help them raise on a crowdfunding site to fund institutional investor outreach because they need $10 million for clinical trials. So with your permission, I just want to talk about how Mike and John can help at this time. That's where we're here and why we're doing it. Number 1, we're going to help you identify your dream investor. Number 2, we're going to determine where they're hiding. And number 3, we're going to attract dream investors to your offer. And that's in your Invest Now button. That's with the 506C at your website, or that's with the Reg A. All right, so that kind of got out of order there, something with my animation. But here's how we do it. Your offer is emailed to a 2 million double opt-in accredited investor email list. This is not an email list that we bought or that you could buy directly. It's an email list Mike's going to talk about right now because of what he's done in the past.
I did a syndicated talk radio show for over 15 years called the Wall Street News Hour, and I co-produced a television show called Let's Talk Stock. We produced it and aired it on the floor of NASDAQ Stock Exchange. We did that for about 12 years. With that media exposure, I interviewed a lot of retail people, institutional people, and built up my network over 25 years that I can reach out to, again, depending on the deal, if institutional people are involved. But it's a list through my contacts, through partnerships, through affiliations and associations that we have that we can reach out to.
And let me kind of describe that just a little bit more. If you engage with us and say, hey, how does this list work? Do I send the list from us? No, we send the email. We not prescribe the stock, but we alert the investor of a stock. It's coming from Mike. They know Mike because they signed up for some type of show or offer or white paper. So it comes from us. It's not coming from you directly. If it came from you directly, they're likely to just like delete it or go right into Google spam. Okay, promoted to our 64K connections. And this is, we've got a team of people that are basically kind of like a pod on LinkedIn. It's called a pod. You got a number of people. And our connections, 82% of our connections are CEO, president, or founder. Today, I've got about 15,000 connections, and they're all CEO, president, founders. I tell you, I get about, 20, 30 connection requests a day. And if it's not CEO, founder of a company or capital or something like that, if it's from India, unfortunately, I just delete it. It's got to be in working with this. I can't waste time with anybody else that's not in that category. All right, so we get press releases out per month. We have a service that we work with that cranks these out, that really targets them this. And I have to tell you, this is not about thinking that somebody in the PR industry or the news media is going to go, oh, I see a whole bunch of press releases out. I'm going to pick that one, interview that guy. This is more about SEO. It's posted on Google, it's posted on LinkedIn, and all the other sites. CEO interviews, radio podcasters, TV national interviews. In that list of 2 million double opt-in accredited investors, we've got a great network of trying to get you in front of TV national interviews. Now, that's like I mentioned earlier about getting a product listed on Popular Mechanics. This is not a quick process. It's traffic you earn and build relationships for you. They need your story as much as you need them, but it takes time. Viral videos, syndicated content, articles, interviews, blog posts, viral content. This is very important. You got to be top of mind awareness, and you've got to be able to be providing valuable content to your audience, because they don't care. If you're throwing ads out there every day, they're just going to ignore them. But if you're offering valuable content about your experience with raising capital, like Mike and I do with our posts on LinkedIn, people are going to click over to you. 10-minute CEO interviews. I think this is very important because all of it's Zoom today. But if I interview you on Zoom and it's how you did it, what you overcame, tell me your story, all the challenges in your life, people are attracted to this. This is called the Entrepreneur's Challenge video. It's almost like a script written for Hollywood. LinkedIn, Facebook ads target investors. Your product could be better suited on Facebook, could be better suited on LinkedIn. We've got experts on both of those fields. I spent millions of dollars on Facebook ads. I don't do it myself. I actually outsource that to an expert, and we monitor that. LinkedIn, actually, if you get the list big enough, you can target the exact audience you want. Broker-dealer support we have today. We've just developed a relationship with a broker-dealer. If you're doing a 506C or a Reg A, we've got a broker-dealer that is very low cost, kind of goes for volume, only charges about 1% of capital raised. We're also going to script, direct, and launch the Perfect Investor Zoom video webinar. It's very important that when you're sending ads out there with a hook, story, offer, that you move them to some kind of introduction where they get to know you more. That's just like this webinar right here. There's a way to do that and follow a script and a template. We also, if you haven't done it already, we want to be able to create a pitch deck story that'll knock an investor's socks off. I've created over 100 pitch decks, raising millions of dollars. We want to get that story out there because that's a calling card. Sometimes you're going to get in front of an investor that could write a check for $1 million or 5 or 10, and they want to be able to look at your deck, scan it very fast. investors spend probably 2 to 3 minutes at most and looking in your deck. Depending on what your offer is, they're going to focus in on 1 or 2 slides and say, okay, let's get this guy on the phone. Also, we just signed up with a white label dedicated FINRA compliant investor portal, meaning where we could take your website, add on a / and a domain, and be able to put an invest now button there. This is for 506 and Reg A. Total value of this is over $1 million, but obviously we're not going to charge you $1 million. But I want to ask you this question. If I was able to raise $20 million and it cost $1 million, would that be worth it to you? I mean, would it be worth it to you if your ultimate goal is to start growing your company fast? You just need capital to grow your company fast. So if you need to do that and you need to do it as soon as possible, I tell you, Mike and I have spent about 40 years learning how to do this. The first way you could do it, take everything you've learned today and go execute. I mean, that's identifying your dream investor, identifying where they congregate, and then doing a hook story offer and going in and get them. Creating an offer that they're compelled to go to. Now, if you did this by yourself, you've never done it before, the only thing it's going to cost you is your time. And if you miss this opportunity, there's a lot of 3rd, 4th, 5th players going, hey, that's a great idea, I'm just going to cost it. But how much is it going to cost you? Look, I don't know on this case right here, not psychic and saying if you do it by yourself, I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence. Raising capital, it's not easy. Mike and I have done it over 40 years. It could be 3 months. You could put your offer on CF and, oh my God, it just takes off. Or it could be a year or more. I knew of a semiconductor. I used to work at a semiconductor. 3 years to raise the capital that they needed. 3 years. So that was everybody getting paid a little bit in cash and a lot more in stock options. The second way is, this is a process that offers certainty. I mean, it's our proven system. And we know it works because we get results for our clients over and over again. Together, Mike and I have raised over $100 million for our clients. And here's our engagement process. If you like what we do, we'll take a look at it, we'll have a conversation, and this could take, if you're going to do a 506C, average about 30 days. If it's a Reg A, it's about 90 to 100 days. I've had one of my attorneys that does, and a broker-dealer said, look, if you can get all of this done, it could be less than 90 days. I'm not going to say that, but what we see is an average 190 to 120 days. But we've got to go through a process to get you live. Deal review, PPM, or F1 filing. We got to get your pitch deck ready. We got to see if there's distribution support for this, because we could send it out to our broker-dealer network and they say, oh my God, I love this offer. The timing's right. I know I can get somebody on this and write a check for $1 million, $5 million really fast. Onboard you, get your investor portal up and running. We design a marketing plan that makes success because we know who your dream investor is, where they congregate, and what kind of offers they're going to respond to. And then we got a live offering. So here's an estimated offering expense on a $5 million raise. Now, this is not CF. This is 506. So Mike and I, it's about 300K, pass-through ad budget. This is an example. It may not take this if traffic you own, traffic you earn, and these are very strong. These 2 legs of that stool are very strong. The ad budget for this could be a lot less. Broker-dealer network, I always want to put that in there because, like I said, if we test what this offer and say, hey, do you think you have anybody in your network that wants to invest in this, and they love it, they're going to get it out to their network, and you can raise $1 million, $5 million very, very fast. And legal, we don't want to forget about that. If you're doing a Reg A, it's going to be more than that because you got to do an audit for 2 years, and you got a securities attorney. So that's an example. So who this works for? You're a mid-sized company, 10 to 100 employees, 2.5 million in revenue, yearly revenue. That's momentum. You already have some momentum. You have a passionate customer fan base, meaning, you know, even if you had 100 customers and they loved your product, we know where to find those. Strong management team, a CEO that commits time and resources to capital raise. I have to make this very, very clear that the CEO's got to be committed to this, because they're going to be stepping out of their comfort zone, talking about their company and why they built the solution. And he can't be afraid. It's hard to be an introvert when you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign. You've got an industry growing as opposed to an industry in contraction. I mean, you know, Mike talked about oil, and it's going to be a little tough to raise capital in oil, but it's happening. Product services with broad appeal. This actually works for B2B and B2C, because B2B today is everybody in the United States that does any work or any products. Like, let me give you an example, AI. Like, how do I sell find investors for an AI product that's only sold to Fortune 1000 companies? Well, there are 10 podcasters that talk about AI. There are a number of websites that talk about AI. There are a number of large sites like GitHub and all those that cater to AI. LinkedIn, there are over 1 million people on LinkedIn that list AI in their profile. That's how you find them. You could do a crowdfunding B2B company. And trending sectors, timing, first, best, and only. This is really important because this is how information gets shared. When you're telling a story about if you're the fifth website out there or the fifth solution, it doesn't get picked up by anybody. But if you're the first, best, or only, it gets shared. It could help go viral. And people say, well, I want to be in this part of this campaign because, you know, I'm like the fifth investor. People love that story. So if you guys, I'm trying to keep that under 45 minutes. I was 3 minutes over. I'm going to open it to questions in a few minutes. But if you have any interest in working with John, Mike and I, you're trying to raise capital, just go to raisecapitalwebinar.com/apply. And you know, answer a few questions on there, a little bit about your company, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But right now, we're going to open it up for questions. I am going to get this chat box. And here we go. Looks like, all right. Richard, you got any questions? Anybody there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just trying to put something.
All right, I'm trying to figure out how to, it seems like Zoom changes these features a lot. So the first question is from, what about startups with no current revenue? Look, it works. It depends on what the product or solution is. You know, we can't create or identify a customer as if you don't know who this is. I've had a lot of people come to us, they built a product or solution, and they don't have any unpaid pilots, or excuse me, let me go back. They don't have any alpha customers, beta customers, unpaid pilots, or pilot customers. It's really hard to do that if you don't have anybody using it and seeing success and offering a testimonial in there. Does that make sense? I'm not saying it's not going to work. We have a customer, it's a drone company, it's a very specific industry, and you know, it's a B2B and really no revenues, but it's very important because the timing's right. All right, Claire, that was the same question. Oh, Richard Brainerd, how is the oil and gas industry being, God dang it, hold on, let me get that. How's the oil and gas industry being considered now in the internet market? Is your funding capable of working for a London AIM IPO? Mike, I'm going to let you answer that because you were the lead on
Sure,
Lucas.
sure. The first thing you need to do is forget about the AIM and London Stock Exchange. If you can't raise money here in the United States, you can't raise money anywhere. That's number one. Number two, the oil and gas industry is going through some issues right now, but if you've got a solid operator on the oil and gas and you're in an area like Texas, I did raise the money with a company that was in the Austin Chalk area in Eagle Ford, but they didn't do any wildcat drilling or any drilling whatsoever. They went into old fields where there was already proven oil reserve, just unplugged the well, put a new pump jack on, and started pumping 10 barrels, 5 barrels, 20 barrels. They ended up pumping 500 barrels a day. You can make money today, and you can raise money today if you've got that kind of a lean operation. If your lifting cost to get the oil out of the ground is $8 or less, which is what they happen to be, you can make some money and you can attract investment capital. If you're a wildcatter, if you're drilling, if you're just hoping to dream with a hole in the ground, no, you can't raise money for oil and gas. It has to be real.
Yeah, that's just too costly to do that right now because the price per barrel is just, is it still negative?
No, it's back in the last time I looked, it was close to $50 a barrel.
All right.
If you get Brent, the Brent crude versus West Texas Intermediate, then you can get it. We got the Brent crude price for the oil and gas, which at the time was a little over $100 a barrel, and the lifting cost was $8 a barrel. So you can make money, even if the oil is $40 a barrel. If your lifting cost is $8, lifting cost means the cost to get that oil out of the ground is $8, $10, $12. You can make some money if you keep your costs in line and don't have a lot of debt. But it's not easy today. I don't want to say easy. It's not in favor right now, but the country still needs oil and oil producers. Just depends on your deal.
Yeah, so Claire Cronk had a question, suggestion for crowdfunding with pre-revenue startup. Now, pre-revenue startup is, the first thing you've got to do is be very careful about which crowdfunding site you go to. The big ones out there are Republic.co, WeFunder, and Start Engine. Now, they all host a variety of different sector-type companies. I think for a technology company, probably the best one to go to is Republic.co because it's run by tech guys out of Silicon Valley. And they look for service like SaaS apps, reoccurring revenue type products. That's the best thing to go. But if you don't have any customers or pre-revenue, like Mike and I talk about, if nobody knows who you are, nobody's going to invest. So you want to do all you can to start talking about your company on all the sites where they hang out. I'm talking about angel investors. I'm talking about LinkedIn. I'm talking about Facebook. Wherever your product is going to be used, you should have some social media campaigns talking about it. So you build up some momentum. So when you go public and live, it's like right out of the racing gates. Does that help, Claire?
Just again, this is Mike. Just
Yes.
to that point that John was making, you really need to do some advertising, marketing, promotion, and reaching out at least 60 days before your offering goes live when you're trying to raise money, because you need to have an established interest in your deal so that when your offering is live and they're directed, they go to the website, they already know who you are, what you're doing, where you're going to go, and how you're going to get there. And it's better for them to make an investment in a company they've already heard of, in press announcements and TV interviews, press releases, whatever. They've already heard about you. You can't get your offering up live on any kind of a platform and then start from scratch to try to advertise it, market, and promote it. You're just going to waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pre-planning and work prior to getting to that level.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
Claire, you
John.
also asked, are your fees paid up front? We are paid. We're a marketing company. We're not a broker dealer. We're not licensed by FINRA, so we can't take success fees or a transaction-based fee based upon your raise. We take fees per month. And it depends on the size of the raise. 5 million, 20 million, depends on what that looks like. It just requires more lifting and a lot more work up front. That Steve Carr, what is the upfront cost for your services? Do we need tens of thousands of dollars for advertising? Well, not necessarily. It depends upon your offer. It depends on how much you're trying to raise. Remember what I talked about. If you have to raise $5 million and you need, you do the math on that and how many people need to write a check for if you're going to go for accredited and non-accredited investors, and you want X number of people to write a check for 250, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to do that. I don't know what that number is right now, but you can work backwards on that. Say, I need to raise $1 million. I need to get in front of this many people. Probably, here's the range, what it's going to cost. So kind of work backwards on those numbers, Steve.
Yeah, John, let me address that also. Just as a rule of thumb, if you're trying to raise $1 million or $5 million, the dollar amount's not really that critical. You need to figure it out. You need a marketing budget of at least 10%. It's going to cost you 10% of the money you're trying to raise in a marketing budget. We don't charge all of that in advance. What we do is we charge typically $25,000 to get started, and then we defer the rest of it, and we take it out of the money that's raised as deferred compensation. So we work that out specifically with each client. But I've got to caution everybody, if you don't have any money, if your business is not cash flowing and you can't afford marketing, whether it's our marketing or somebody else's, or even to do your own marketing, you have no business out there trying to raise money. Because there is no free lunch when it comes to raising money. I'm not trying to be cruel or a smart aleck or anything like that, but nobody in the business raises money on success fee. Even the broker dealers that we work with charge a monthly retainer expense fee, and they take some points on the back end on a best efforts basis if they're successful. It's a myth. It's a myth that's perpetrated for years that everybody can raise millions of dollars and it's not going to cost them a dime in marketing, promotion, advertising, that it all comes off the back end. It's just not true. So again, we put a budget together with each client. We quote, the fees and what's it going to cost, just to set some expectation for somebody raising X number of dollars. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to get that point.
No, that's all right. No, that's Mike is in charge of the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah.
William Lyman, can you discuss the restriction on target investor profile and broadcast advertising to solicit investors? Well, Michael Brett is actually a licensed attorney, so he can
talk. John. Yeah, I'll address that. Yeah, you have to be careful on what how you're advertising. If you're doing a CF crowdfund, you can do a certain amount of advertising and promotion, but you can't talk about the terms of the offering in the CF offering. All you can do is put the word out there. Look, XYZ company is doing a crowdfund offering. Here's the link, and you direct them to the link. They got to go to the link. They have to push the invest button, and then the licensed broker that works for that platform, whether it's WeFunder or Microventure, picks it up and closes the financing. That's equity crowdfunding. On 506C financing, that was passed in the Jobs Act. You're allowed to advertise on radio, TV, direct mail, email marketing, social media marketing, but under 506C, you can only take investment capital from accredited investors. And now you cannot just have the investor sign a suitability questionnaire that says, yes, check the box, I'm accredited. You have to take what the SEC says are reasonable steps to verify that they are accredited, which means, in part, you've got to get copies of tax returns, copies of brokerage statements, copies of bank statements, a letter from their attorney, a letter from the CPA, everything that backs up the fact that they're accredited. You cannot take money from non-accredited investors if you're doing a 506C. Now, under Regulation A+, you can take money from accredited and non-accredited, and you can still advertise, market, and promote, and do radio, television, seminars, meetings, road shows. That's why the Jobs Act was passed, and they put all these elements in it to make it a little easier for companies to raise money. But you still need legal counsel, and I'm not here to give you legal advice. I'm not here to get legal work. You need to have your own SEC counsel guide you along the way. But there are certain rules and regulations you need to comply with, and I've covered a few of those in brief. Anything else, we've got another securities lawyer that we can put you in touch with. But those are some of the steps right there.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question.
Just a little bit on that. Crowdfunding campaigns, if you do a CF, usually you're targeting for a 90-day window. You want to get it started, you want to get it in. It's a race. It builds up excitement. And, it also creates fear of missing out when it comes to the end. But you can't talk about that on a CF. But what you could do is, if you started working on traffic you earn, that is press, podcasters, and stuff like that, you can ask them to please, can you embargo this until such and such date to when it's launched to build up the excitement and say, hey, now we're live. You can probably invest in me. There's other things you can't do with the CF. You can't tell, well, we only have 33 days left. That's great for direct marketers like ClickFunnels and Russell Busted. You can do that. Only 5 days left to buy the product. You can't do that with that. But you could, there's other ways to kind of around that to say we're closing it off.
Yeah, but with a CF crowdfunding, you can't talk about the offering, but you can advertise your product. You can talk about, this is the product that we manufacture, this is its uses, this is what we're doing, this is where it's sold, this is how we're marketing. You can talk about your product, your company, and advertise. In that advertising, though, you can't say, oh, by the way, we're raising $3 million or raising $1 million on the crowdfunding and we're selling stock. You can't do that. So there's certain requirements, but you can advertise your company and your product. But when it comes to the raise, you have to say, here's the link for more information and direct them to that link.
Yeah. So that's when I talked about having expertise behind you to create a hook story offer. I mean, the hook is not just throwing stuff out there. There's ways to do it. It's tricky. There's laws we have to follow with the SEC that what you can say and can't say. And then you've got a very short period of time to get that hook to work, to get them over to the story and convince them. And usually that's going to be in some kind of video, some kind of webinar, some way that you can tell a story about why you built that product, telling about your mess and how it became your message. All right, so what else do we have here? Thanks for the webinar. Thanks, Richard. Can you discuss restriction on target? Okay, we already got that one. Here's the one from Steve Carr. So if we have a great idea and a great team, pre-revenue, how can we possibly raise money? We have a fantastic foundation, but we're all pre-revenue, and therefore, well, that's traffic you earn. I mean, the first thing you're going to have to get out there is find some customers to talk about your product and use your product, get testimonials for them, get a video from them. Written testimonials don't work anymore. You got to get them on video telling what happened before, what happened after, and that you offer, what you did help them. Either that they're moving away from pain or heading towards pleasure. So you're just going to have to work on earned media right now. That's blog posts, that's posting, that's talking to them, that's reaching out, trying to get press, trying to get on podcasters. Hey, there's a tool, Steve. There's a tool out there. One of my first connections built this tool. He used to run CMOS. It's called Spark Turo. It's a nice, great tool that if you typed in your keyword for your industry, you can find out the top 10 podcasters plus top 10 websites, top 10 bloggers, and create a story to pitch to them to talk about it. See, and once you get coverage for that, then you start moving towards raising capital, because you're in a condition where you're still asking for advice. And there's an old saying in Silicon Valley, if you ask for money, you're likely to get advice. If you ask for advice, you're going to end up with money sometimes. All right, Claire, you're welcome. Scott Graham, I'm going to write it in here to everyone. I guess I need to sign up for an affiliate program with the Spark Turo. There you go. That's one of the tools we use. Did I get everybody's question answered? Thanks for the webinar.
Looks like there's 19 questions on there.
Yeah. Yes, on Crowdfunding pre-revenue startup. I think we covered that. Okay. Well, guys, look, I want to, if you guys are interested in working with us, we do have an application process. We only work with about 3 clients a month. It's just the time it takes to do that. It requires to do the heavy loading. So please go to raisecapitalwebinar.com/apply, answer the questions. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Oh, one more question from Steve Carr. We've built a geo-intelligence platform that provides solutions for local businesses to compete with the big box stores in order to maximize the velocity of money in a local community. That sounds interesting. Can you tell me what it's like? It's like a ... does ... Postmates and DoorDash used to say, it's like an Uber for food delivery. Steve, I'm going to put you on unmute, and you can ask that question.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
What we've built actually over the course of the last 6-8 months, actually about a year.
Hey, what do you got for lunch?
Excuse me?
We're all working at home, apparently.
Yeah, what we've built is this geointelligence platform that allows the merchants and the customers to stay connected in a way that would be similar to what you would find with Amazon. And so that the velocity of money would be increased in the local community, so that instead of purchasing whatever, a shower head or toothbrush or anything like that from Amazon and being delivered, we can do same day delivery from the local community. And we can do so with this geointelligence platform to make sure that, people are getting what they want. And it has, many of the same types of functionalities like reviews and whatnot. So that's what we've built out. And it actually has a number of different things that we're incorporating as time goes by that we would need capital in order to actually, to get fully functional inside of there. And so that's the reason for the need for the money. We have a really core team that's dedicated to it, that has basically taken no money out in sweat equity. And now we're at the point where everything looks good and it feels right and everything is going to work. It's just that in order to get to where we need to go, of course, we need money. And then we need money.
Yes, good afternoon. This is John from the city of San Dimas, Code Compliance.
We need, it's always the catch-22. You need money to get to the money.
Yeah.
And you need money to get to credibility. And
yeah. So this is there's a couple ways you can go with this. I mean, you're a tech product. I would take a look at republic.co for CF, but they may require a little more criteria about you having some alpha, beta, unpaid pilot or pilot programs to know that proof of concept has worked out. The other way to do that is actually look at the donation sites like Kickstarter sites. I mean, there are millions of dollars raised for real companies on Kickstarter. There's a local company in Tucson that makes photo camera lenses for the Canon cameras. He's raised like $3 million over 3 or 4 campaigns from Kickstarter. That's one way to go. You just have to be able to, just because you put it on Republic.co or Kickstarter.com doesn't mean it's going to work. You're still going to have to build up brand and people talking about your product on those where they congregate, those social media, whether it's at a group on LinkedIn or on Facebook or GitHub or wherever it's at. You got to be able to talk about it and finding that passionate fan user base. Got it.
Thanks for thank you very much. I appreciate the tip.
You're welcome. Yeah, and go to sparktoro.com and just you're going to have to test some keywords, what that actually looks like, to find out who those people are talking about it.
Right. And last question for you. We're kicking around the idea of like blockchaining some of the technology. I know that's some people are like, they steer clear of it just because of the crypto, hysteria and whatnot. Your thoughts on that, maybe?
No, not really. I mean, it's a buzzword that people throw around. Hey, we're building this with blockchain, and that doesn't do anything for anybody because it's so overused right now in Silicon Valley. It's just like, well, what does it do for a customer? Takes them from A to B. Like, what's the before and after? I don't really care if it's built on blockchain. I just want to make sure it works, right?
Yeah, got you. Okay, thank you.
I've seen many campaigns fail in Kickstarter and won't get the spending out of. Well, that's very true. The deal about Kickstarter is there's so many people on Kickstarter and so many people trying to raise money, going to the same groups and Facebook and stuff, trying to raise money. It's become like commoditized.
Yeah, 90%, the figures are 90% of the Kickstarter Indiegogo campaigns fail because they just don't have a marketing budget. And that's not my opinion. Now, you can go and research it on your own. If you don't have a marketing budget, as John and I were talking about, even on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you're going to fail because you need to have some way of getting people to look at your offering. They need to know you exist and who you are, what you're doing, where you're going to go, and how you're going to get there. And without reaching out to people and letting them know those questions, the answer to those questions, you're going to fail. And the figures are 90% of those offerings fail just for that reason. No marketing budget.
Yeah, and look, and you got a product that, you don't really know what it does for a customer yet because you don't know what the results are. Once you get that results and you've taken a customer to before and after, that's the epiphany bridge. That's the story you could start telling to all those social media sites or wherever you find out where your customers or investors are congregating. All right. Mike, it's 12:12. I want to thank everybody for attending this. I will create a video very soon about the questions and the PDF of the webinar, and we'll get that out sometime next week. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, Mike Brett on LinkedIn, John Stoddard on LinkedIn. If you are a company that is looking to raise capital, just go to raisecapitalwebinar.com/apply. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Thanks.
All right. Stop share. End.